Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the CCS Conference Call After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Nation RL. I'm back with co-host Mr. Ovick is our co-host tonight, not Dronas. How's it going, though, Dronas? So this graphic is wrong.
Oh my god, I feel so much more handsome now that I'm named Mr. Bethic. But yeah, I'm doing great. It's great to be back. Ultimately, I was really excited for this episode because this past week has been insane.
It really has been. There's been a lot of crazy results, and we'll kind of dive more deep into those results later in the show. But I mean, there's a lot of big games that happened through week 3 and a couple of upsets, and I'll tell a funny story later because I got to tune in and watch the Rutgers versus Washington game a couple nights ago, and that's a silly little goofy story in its own, but I'll tell it later on in the show. But that was a fun game to watch, and again, there were upsets galore throughout week 3.
Yeah, there really was. I mean, I know, obviously we're going to release the top 25 later in the episode, but I know that the committee had a lot of trouble figuring it out because there were so many matches that happened in the top 25, outside the top 25. It was really all over the place this week. I mean, I know it's the first week of conference play, but I mean, it was really chaotic to open things up.
It really was. We saw the non-conference also kind of come to an end with the CCS Invitational games wrapping up their third round matches this week, and I guess we can start there, Jonas. I mean, Charlotte falling in 4 to James Madison, and Jamie really took over. In the first place game, Iowa State made light work of Grand Canyon, picked up a 3-0 win over the Antelopes of GCU. They're in the third place game, and then South Carolina made quick work of Nebraska, and a straight sweep is set to 3-0 win there for the Gamecocks to take 5th place, and then Idaho State made quick work of California for 7th place.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, James Madison, it's been interesting, obviously, with the addition of Pigeon to see how this team develops. I know they're up there in the power rankings. I know the last power rankings we had, they were at number 7. We'll see if they go up. They did have some pretty solid competition, and they dominated. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I think James Madison had the hardest slate all throughout. I think out of all the round 1 teams, Idaho State, one of the more difficult, then going against Iowa State, who again could be argued for that second place position. They face each other in that second round, and then they go up against Charlotte, who of course is also a top 10 team here in CCS. 3-1, not even letting it get to the 5th game. It's a pretty solid invitational victory for the Dukes. I'm interested to see how it affects their power ranking.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, again, when making this list, the Boone's list actually was not submitted on time. But prior to Boone's list being submitted, there were 3 ties in the rankings. As Akron and Missouri were tied for, I'm not going to say what spots. Iowa State and Cincinnati were also tied. And I don't remember who the other tie was. But there were a couple ties, and then Boone's list broke 2 of those ties and left Missouri and Akron still tied at their respective rankings. So we'll see how things shook out here in a little bit.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, the CCS Invitational was a lot of fun to see how everything developed. You got some of those teams who don't usually see each other face off, and you see good teams like Cal. Finding 8th place out of 8, it is really tough, but it, again, just shows the level of competition that is in CCS. I mean, honestly, there were just some really interesting games. Even, if you take out the higher games, looking at, Charlotte versus James Madison, looking at Grand Canyon versus Iowa State, obviously, those 2 last games, but also looking at games like Nebraska, Idaho State. That's a fun one. South Carolina versus Nebraska, that's another fun one. Cal versus Idaho State, even for that 7th, 8th place matchup, that's a solid matchup that, of course, the Bengals were able to win 3-1, but there was just a lot of great series all throughout. We only saw 2 Game 5s, and Grand Canyon was a part of them both. Unfortunately, couldn't quite secure 3rd place, but the Antelopes are kind of, they're up and down. They're up and down.
They had a rough week 3. I mean, you drop in 3 to Iowa State, then you get swept the next night by Utah Valley. I mean, things were rough during week 3 for the Antelopes. That was a bit, probably one of the bigger upsets of the week. I mean, again, you can't say this is not the biggest one of the week because there is Rutgers sweeping Michigan State back on Wednesday night. And then the next night, Rutgers, for whatever silly little reason, decided to agree to play Washington at midnight Eastern on Thursday night into Friday morning. So I was going to Discord a watch party that game, by myself with whoever else wanted to come join the community. So game time comes around. I asked if I could spectate. I make the lobby, and right at game time, right at kickoff, all three Rutgers players join the call. The captain MP is not there. He's not playing. Hashtag no passion NP, as the Rutgers boys say. The Scarlet Knights, their captain not there that night, and one of the other players did not want to play but was forced to play in that series. And we'll just say they've got the best damn comms in the league. Their comms are goofy and silly. They was game one. They like somewhat tried and somewhat trolled. Game one didn't go their way. Game two, they all swapped to random car designs and random cars for the entirety of the rest of the series. After every single game, they all changed their cars. Game two goes extremely far south, barring a late comeback that was stunned at the end in 0 seconds. But going down to game three, the Scarlet Knights trailed 2-0. Things turned around for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights offense. They found a couple of high shooting goals. Game three went their way. Got to game four, murdered Washington in game four again. Now they're feeling confident going to game five, but yet they are still trolling and having some fun. It is midnight Eastern on local time for the Scarlet Knights. They go to game five. They trail early, bring it back to tie it up late. They go to overtime, and off the kickoff, things went south real fast, and Washington pulled off the stunner. J-Ritz played a heck of a series, probably one of the best he's played all season.
Yeah, I mean, it's really insane. There's no other way to put it. The results, especially out of the Big Ten, I don't know. There's not much to say other than that it was kind of all over the place. We saw some, the Rutgers, that's a big win to get over Michigan State, obviously, and then the Huskies being able to take down Rutgers. Also in that week, UCLA took down Washington. I don't know.
It was just a week full of crazy stuff. I mean, a lot of crazy upsets throughout the course of week three. But again, and back to that Rutgers Washington series. I mean, it was peak cinema, peak comedy, peak troll from Rutgers. It was fun to be a part of and fun to listen to. And game five, there was like me, Pac-Man, the Rutgers squad. MP even came and joined after game three. So he was there at the end of it. Mystic and Vanish Midas were all there. It was a grand old time, having a fun little laugh and getting to listen to their comms. But there was a lot of interesting series and a couple of bigger upsets the course of the last week.
Yeah, there really was. I mean, obviously the Big Ten is kind of the main one you need to look at. But also saw some things developing in Conference USA. Middle Tennessee State looked to be a solid threat over there. I mean, seeing, South Carolina, they're kind of getting back into the swing of things over in the SEC. Obviously, moving over to the Big 12, that was another fun one to watch. Houston had an interesting week. Game 5 went over at Utah and got swept by Cincy. That's a pretty nice win for the Bearcats over there, proving that they are indeed one of the best teams. I believe on the previous power rankings they were number 12. We'll see where they end up now, but it was a fun week all over.
And Houston has to play Iowa State this week too, so their schedule doesn't get any easier as their schedule goes on. So that's an interesting game. But how do we feel about the California Golden Bears after a 1-5 start and a 1-1 conference record going to week 4?
It's a little disappointing to see, to say the least. I mean, this is a team we expect to kind of, be at the very, very top over there in the ACC, and now they are having one of the roughest starts we've seen from them in, I think, probably in ever. And now we'll see how they're going to be able to bounce back. This upcoming week they play NC State. Think they should be able to probably get a win there, but at this point, who knows?
They've had a rough start. I mean, at this point, who knows is a good answer. But the ACC, I mean, is it time to have a conversation about them being one bid?
I still think they're going to secure 2, but there is a conversation there. There is very, very well a chance that it might just be the AQ. We'll have to see how the rest of these teams develop, if they're able to kind of lock in at this point. I feel like that's kind of the only way to describe it. If one of these teams is going to be able to, put on a good run. Obviously, Louisville and Virginia, they're 2-0 to start after the first week of conference play. We'll see if they're kind of able to keep up that pace. They did have some better matchups there, but I really don't know at this point. There's so many things that could happen over in the ACC. It's really up to them.
I mean, Syracuse defeated California in Game 5, and then hours later, North Carolina stunned Pittsburgh into 3-0 sweep, and again, you can't, if you're the ACC, you can't keep taking these quad three losses like it's nothing. I mean, California's already got now a couple of bad losses on their resume. Pitt's got a loss to North Carolina. Cal's lost to Syracuse already, and a couple others. And you can't keep having these teams that are supposed to be running the conference losing to teams they should have no problem beating.
Yeah, it will be. It will be an interesting one. We could see Clemson. You know, obviously Clemson's always kind of near the top. This upcoming week, they take on Pitt
Well,
and Miami.
Clemson's got the loss to Bowling Green State already, and someone else that shouldn't have
Yeah.
lost to.
So they had kind of a tougher start. Maybe during conference play they can really pick up the pace. Pitt. I mean, honestly, between Pitt and Clemson, who's ever able to win this week, that could be a huge boost for them trying to move forward. But again, I think at this point, if you want two bids out of the ACC, you're going to need to see the second place team, whoever doesn't secure that title, that conference title, they really have to show out in conference play.
Okay, this is with all due respect, but okay, Florida going to Game 5 with Texas, overreaction or underreaction?
I don't think we heard enough of it. In my personal opinion, I think it was a little bit quiet. Obviously, Florida still got the win, but Texas being Texas, I mean, we've seen some stunner upsets from them before. Obviously, we saw them take down the Cyclones last season to open up the season 4 national tournament. Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible win they got in game number 7, if I'm not mistaken, over Iowa State. And, you know, no one expected that. Again, I was one of the people that said, I don't even think Texas should be in the tournament. I didn't think they should have secured that 14 seed.
I agree.
They did. They proved me wrong. They got that win, and now...
They were at 15 seed, by the way.
They were... Oh, yeah, it was a 2 and 15. That's right.
Yeah, they were a 2 and 15. I think, wasn't it?
I couldn't tell you.
Do we have somebody that? I mean, let's pull the bracket.
I think Florida, Colorado was. This was in the West. Colorado was 1. Florida was 2. Iowa State was 3.
So they were 14.
They were a 14 seed. Yeah.
Okay, now. Okay, let's say this: San Diego State will not win the Mountain West Conference tournament. Overreaction or underreaction?
I think that is a valid take. San Diego State, obviously, they're still kind of at the top of that pile, but we've seen weaknesses in the past couple seasons. Obviously, we saw Air Force defeat them in the regular season last season. We saw them go to Game 5 last week versus the Aztecs. Washington State, they've been looking a little bit better. I think there's a chance that they could try and dethrone SDSU this season. I think that's a valid insight to have.
So you think it's an underreaction?
Yeah. I very much think the Aztecs, they might let it drop. Obviously, they still have a very solid squad, led by Zap. I think they're going to do a lot of damage as per usual. I still think they're going to make the tournament. But are they able to kind of secure their title in the Mountain West? It's looking a little wobbly.
Yeah, on this next one, I think it's an underreaction. But after a 1-5 start to the year, the Bobcats of Quinnipiac will miss the CCS championships in its entirety.
I think that might be an overreaction. I think they'll be fine. I think they're still gonna get the AQ over there. If they don't take the conference tournament,
because keep in mind,
probably not.
They have nothing to back their resume at this point. They blew away every opportunity they had in the non-conference. They are 1-5 right now. They've already lost a conference game. They have nothing to prove themselves with at this point in the season. If they don't win it, they're out.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, dropping week 1 to Fairfield, the newcomer over there, that's interesting to see. I mean, Quinnipiac, they were dominant in conference play last year. It had to be. I mean, they were perfect 6-0, 18-2 in their games. They only dropped 2 games that entire 6 weeks, which just seems nuts. Oh, excuse me, those entire 5 weeks. 5 weeks of conference play. But yeah, I mean, I do agree. They've had a really tough start. Non-conference was brutal for them, dropping your first week of conference play to Fairfield. I don't know much about Fairfield, as I gotta be honest. I don't know much about that.
I don't know anything either.
Yeah, I don't really know what they got over there. I don't know much about the Stags, but we'll have to see. Maybe they're the new leader over there. Quinnipiac, maybe they just had a tough week, tough couple weeks in non-conference. They've been slow to start, and I do agree. If they don't win out, I think they'll miss it.
It's interesting to think about that on a scale
Mhm.
that coming into the season, Pyro talked of a lot of talk about how they were going to come back with a vengeance, so they were going to do this and that, and they were going to be a way higher seed. They felt like they were disrespected, and now they come into the spring and have given no results to back
Yeah, I
that.
mean, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I mean, this upcoming week they take on Siena Iona. I feel like they still should be able to get those wins. Week 5, I mean, Marist, Manhattan, then Canisius, then they end off with Mount St. Mary's. I mean, it'll be an interesting test. It's definitely going to be a story that we're going to keep our eye on, just because it's an interesting one. I mean, Quinnipiac going from really the top dog, expecting a lot of them obviously did get round wanted in the national tournament, but still saw some good fight. Obviously saw them dominate their conference. Now it looks like they're slipping a little bit.
And they played Mount St. Mary's in that AQ qualification game last
Yep.
season. And I see you in chat asking where's Mount St. Mary's. We'll get into the standings later, and we'll kind of go more into detail about every single team. But they do play in the same conference as Quinnipiac. They play them later on in the year, and I think for the last game of the season, and the
Yep.
rematch, I believe is the correct schedule there, but I'm not quite sure. But Fairfield and Siena are new to the league this season, coming out of the Metro Athletic Atlantic or Metro Atlantic Athletic, maybe I don't know what it's Metro. It's Metro Atlantic Athletic, I believe, is the MAAC. I think is what it is. You can
Metro Atlantic Athletic. Yeah.
okay, that is correct. But yeah, that's later on in the show. But we kind of already briefly discussed the Invitational. I don't know if we need to harp on it much
Yeah,
longer.
I think we got
We
it.
can skip that. But anyway, I think it's time to review the poll and talk about the top 25.
100%. I mean, again, this was a really interesting week. There were a lot of really polarizing results. I mean, we'll see how it's reflected.
Let's take a look at the CCS Season 5, Week 4, Top 25, Dronas. Anything standing out early?
I mean, the biggest thing, obviously, we see a couple moves down low. Rutgers making onto the list. Obviously, one of the biggest moves, kind of shocking that top 10 space. Obviously, Michigan State. They went from number 2 last week to dropping all the way down to number 7. Losing to the unranked Rutgers. It'll do it to you. Obviously the committee still respects the Spartans, still think they are a top 10 team, number 7 in the CCS right now, but definitely dropped, and we'll see if they fall more.
I mean, they now already have 2 losses on the year. I mean, at this point, is okay. Let's say this: another overreaction, underreaction for you. Michigan State will be off the one line in April.
Ooh, I think that very well might happen.
I don't know how I feel about it because again, Akron still has to play Ball State. JMU still has a difficult schedule. Florida and Missouri to play each other. I mean, those are two big quad one opportunities for those teams. So I think I would say right now though, if things continue the way they are, and let's just say for instance, Michigan State goes unbeaten the rest of the semester and wins the Big Ten. I think it depends on other results, but I think they're still off the one line
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think there's just been
because
a couple
you've got
a
Drexel.
couple tough
Because there
losses.
should be what Drexel and overall number one, barring a stunning loss at this point, and then Missouri, assuming they take care of business with Florida twice. You could argue both Missouri and Florida deserve a one. There's
Yeah,
Akron in the mix. I mean,
yeah, obviously.
there could be a freak upset in the top 4, and Radford could jump in. I don't know, but at this point, Michigan State, I don't know if their fate's in their hands in terms of a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think it already might be lost, even if they win out for the rest of the way. it'll still be really, really tough. And James Madison, they're another team. I feel like they might be able to sneak in. We'll see. That a lot of results obviously have to kind of go their way, but they did make it to the top five. Now went from 7-5 after the CCS Invitational victory. Also saw a couple teams move up. Looking at Cincinnati moved up over the sweep over Houston. Iowa State moved up a little bit, getting top three up over there in the Invitational as well. I mean, a couple really solid results. Seeing some teams move up. One of the other biggest drops, Grand Canyon, from 15 down to 23 after the loss from Utah Valley.
Now, pre-show we were talking about checking spell checks. There, I see a spelling issue. I'm not going to say it because I don't know if anyone else sees it. But this graphic has a spelling error, but it's fine. But anywho, Utah and Robert Morris get some votes in the top 25 selection committee. But either way, it's week 4. Your votes mean nothing at this point in the season. Well, let's just keep it a buck. But again, Rutgers pulls off one of the most stunning upsets of the season. Gets a 3-0 sweeping victory over Michigan State, but then 24 hours later can't get past Washington. So I don't know what to think of Rutgers after watching what I watched a couple nights ago.
Yeah, I know myself. I didn't really know what to do about them. I know as a fact that I put Rutgers at number 24. I'm willing to come out and say it. I put them at 24 on my own personal list. Mostly because, part of me wanted to put them higher. Part of me didn't want to include them at all. It was incredibly, literally going from opposite sides of the spectrum, literally beating the number 2 team in CCS at that point, and then losing to the unranked Huskies. It was just literally complete opposite sides. I did feel like I had to favor them on the upper, taking down the Spartans, so that is why they are on the number 24 spot. Did see South Carolina sneak in there. Utah almost made it. They had, a pretty tough week over in the Big 12, but they competed well.
They did 2 Game 5s, lost to Houston and beat Arizona State, so they split the week 1-1, and I think they have another difficult game this week. I don't even remember who they play, but I can look really fast. They play West Virginia, so they should win. But speaking of West Virginia, they I don't know if you watched the game or not, Jonas, but they played Texas Tech on the broadcast a couple nights ago and went to Game 5 with the Mountaineers, and they did trail that series 2-1. Things almost were very tragic for Texas Tech. So as playing Dronas, I know we saw preseason going into league play that Texas Tech, let's just put it out there, they've got one of the most easiest schedules in the country. And there's no arguing that whatsoever. They've got one of the most easiest schedules to play. Anything south of a 6-2 record is a disgrace for Texas Tech.
Yeah, Big 12, one of the toughest conferences in CCS. They have probably the easiest run through that you can have. If they don't make it there, there's not much else to be said. They got to get that 6-2 mark. If they drop below it, the Red Raiders are in a really tough spot.
Because again, their toughest game is Houston, and the only other possible game I see them losing is Arizona State.
Yep.
And beyond that, your next hardest opponent is UCF. They don't play a very difficult schedule at all whatsoever. Which means that they're going to probably likely be a 4-5 seed in the Big 12 tournament and get slammed by whoever actually is 4th or 5th. Would probably be my guess.
Yeah, it sounds rough to say, but that is the truth. You look at whoever would be the number 4 team. You got teams like Arizona, Cincinnati. You got Iowa State.
Houston.
Houston is up there. You're probably going to have to play a team like Houston,
Utah
honestly.
could be around that range potentially.
Or Utah, Arizona State. They still have to be talked about.
And Arizona State already beat Texas Tech. They're now 1-1 in league play after last week. So there's your one loss you can already afford to have. You can only take one more to Houston, and then beyond that you're in trouble. So you got to be perfect the rest of the way bar outside of that Houston game. But again, at this point, if the Red Raiders want to see a chance to play in the tournament, that Houston game might be a must-win.
Yeah, it might really be. We'll have to see. That's gonna be really tough to win for them. I don't really know what to expect at this point. We'll have to see kind of how everything falls for them. But they're gonna have a a lot of work to do. I mean, last season they did just finish outside the conference tournament. They finished ninth in the Big 12, just behind UCF. But we'll see if they can turn it around.
Well, but speaking of like the standings, let's jump right into the standings. For
Yeah,
week
yeah.
3, we got the graphics all set. Right at the American Athletic Conference, Temple in first place, 2-3 overall, but 2-0 in league play, alongside Charlotte, Wichita State, all tied for first at 2-0, and then East Carolina, North Texas to follow, still unbeaten in the league play. UTSA 6, UAB 7, UNC Black 8 would be your cutoff for the playoff tournament.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's still really really early, but we'll have to see. North Texas, expecting them to kind of be at the very very top. Wichita State, they'll be interesting to keep an eye on as well. I mean, expecting those two to really just dominate. Charlotte, obviously, those are always kind of going to be your top three. But where you start getting into that potential four bid, that's where things get interesting.
Yeah, I think I have it. Charlotte, Wichita State 1-2. But I mean, last season North Texas lost to East Carolina, which bumped them down to the 4-5 game, in which they lost again to ECU. Um, I could see. I mean, I would imagine North Texas finished third, but then you got ECU, UTSA that could potentially pull something off, and Wichita State Black is very solid. They again opened their season already with Charlotte and North Texas, I think. So they played two of the top three
Yeah.
teams in week 1, hence why they're 0-2 already. But they just had a difficult schedule to start the season. They'll be in the tournament, no problem.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one to see, definitely. But I mean, you expect as things start to take shape, Charlotte will kind of secure that number one spot. They have a pretty solid week this upcoming week, taking on Temple and Tulsa. Those should be two more victories. Week after that, they take on Navy and FAU, two more wins. Then things get a little bit trickier. They take on East Carolina, still should be able to secure that victory. And then week 7, Wichita State. I don't believe they take on UNT.
What team is this again?
I'm talking about Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte does not play North Texas.
Yeah.
They do play Wichita State though, so
Mhm.
they get the chance of a quad one win there. But I would imagine. I guess Wichita State would play North Texas in the tournament at the 2-3 semifinal, unless North Texas finished 4th or 5th.
Hmm.
But I would imagine it's Charlotte 1, WSU 2, North Texas 3, and then
Yeah.
ECU probably 4, UTSA 5, or Wichita State Black 5, UTSA 6 maybe. We'll have to kind of wait and see. Moving right along to the best conference and the hardest conference to win in the whole dang league is the Big 12. Arizona sits at first place, 2-0, tied with Cincinnati, UCF, and then Iowa State, BYU, currently in the picture, 1-0. Arizona State 6, Utah 7, Texas Tech 8 is the cutoff. If the season ended today, Houston would be left out of the Big 12 playoff.
I mean, honestly, seeing BYU, I know we don't usually talk about BYU, but I mean, getting a win already is huge for them. Last season they went 0-8, did not get a single victory, but got a pretty decent win. 3-1 over TCU is not bad at all. Obviously, don't know if that's going to be able to continue, but it's nice to see them get that win here to start off season 5 of conference play. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many teams to talk about. Arizona and
And
Cincy, obviously going 6-0 to start. Two sweeps for each of those. I mean, we're expecting to see them at the top.
we were so high on TCU in week 1. We watched them absolutely have a bloodbath with Denver, and since then it has been downhill, straight downhill for TCU.
Yeah,
We thought this season might be the one where they finally kind of break through the curse of beating all the teams below them, but it doesn't look to be that way after a loss to BYU, and I believe the other loss was somebody that was actually really good. Arizona, oh, they murdered them. That was not pretty.
yeah, yeah. A bit of an unfortunate pull there, but I mean, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting. It's always an interesting conference to keep an eye on. I mean, I gotta ask this: how many bids are we seeing this season?
Um, well, Arizona's 1,
Yep.
Cincinnati is 2,
Hmm.
Iowa State's 3,
Yep. Houston.
Houston should be 4. Um, Arizona State's potentially a 5th, and if there really is depth this season, Utah and Texas Tech could slide for a 6th.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm expecting 5. I could definitely see 5 happening. 6 is where it gets a little bit more dicey. I think Utah can definitely make it. We've seen that they can compete with the best of the best. Aren't really able to get those victories, but are able to compete quite well. So we'll see.
Mystic, I agree, but the problem with Utah is they have the toughest schedule in the country. Um, they get opportunities to prove themselves week in and week out, but the problem is winning those games. They've always had a lot of close calls. Game fives with some of the best teams in the league in the past, with especially Colorado the last couple seasons, always going to game five with them and always falling
Yep.
short. But again, they have to find ways to win close games. They haven't been able to do that in the past. I'm hoping that I don't get yelled at for not leaving them out if they make it. They always are on the bubble. I hate seeing Utah not play in tournament. I trust me, I really do. I love them. Well, I love watching them play. They're so fun, and they're one of the most storied teams in the league as well. If you guys are here in season 2, you know what I'm talking about with the Kansas series at the end where Jonas and I were on the call for that. But again, they've made it very difficult for us to justify putting them in seasons in the past, and they were a little upset they were left out last season. I'm hoping and praying that this is finally the one where we see them at least get a chance to compete in April.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we've talked about it since Utah have been here in CCS. I think we always want to see them make it. They're always just beyond the cut. We'll see if that is able to change, but again, it's really not up to us. We need to see them get those quality wins. We need to see them take down some great opponents. We saw them take down Arizona State. That's a good start, but it's not going to get any easier. I mean, you mentioned that next week they take on West Virginia, or this week they take on West Virginia. They also take on Arizona.
West
That's going to
Virginia's
be
a trap
another.
game. I can't lie, that's kind of a trap game.
I mean, they've been kind of interesting to keep an eye on so far this season. We'll see how that one fares. I mean, West Virginia might be able to get a big win. Maybe they're that 7th team.
Because again, they're 2-3 overall right now. They've already matched their win total from last season. Historically, West Virginia has been one of the worst teams in the Big 12. But again, every season they always make improvements, and it's fun to watch. And shout out to Igor, he DMs me a lot. I talk to him a lot, and he's a good guy. And he tells me about the practices and how things are going, and they're trying their best to improve. They always want to one up themselves, and like they won 2 games last season, well, let's win 3 or 4 this next season. They want to keep going, up and up, and they've been doing that. So I'm proud of them for doing that. And again, I'd like to see them pick up that marquee win.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see if they can provide it. However, I mean, who knows what can happen? It's already been crazy in the first week. We'll see if that kind of continues.
Let's move along. The ACC is in a pit of a dark hole. Louisville or Virginia Tech tied for first at 2-0. And again, Louisville, is even Virginia Tech too potentially. I don't know how long that's going to stay at the top. Clemson at 3, North Carolina 4, Syracuse 5, Cal 6, Miami 7, Pitt at 8. That's the cutoff for the ACC, and this order is just baffling to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's still early. There's still a lot that's going to happen. But I feel like I'm supposed to know a lot, about CCS, about everything that we see. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with this conference for the rest of season 5. It's already been insane to see. I don't know.
It's crazy. I mean, me and you were talking just a couple nights ago, and we were just shocked and heck, even maybe a little concerned after watching Pitt and Cal lose to Syracuse and North Carolina in the same night. That was concerning. We've talked a lot about Miami already on the show in the past and how they had high expectations. They now sit 1-5. They have not had the start of the season they've liked, and now John has a broken hand. He will be out for some weeks, so they have to resort to a substitute to play the remainder of however long he's gone for. So they're dealing with some injuries, and we'll see how things shake out for them.
Injuries always a big part of collegiate Rocket League. It's always something you have to keep an
You
eye
know
on.
who's
But
got
it does.
the best injury report?
Oh,
Remember back in season 3 where Yoke broke his thumb or
I do
whatever,
remember
and
Yokes.
came back and won the whole dang league.
Yeah, we gave him MVP for that exact reason.
That was crazy.
Because that was it. We thought we were gonna lose him for the rest of it. We didn't know what Colorado was gonna be able to do. He came back, healing, recovering, and then ended up winning the whole thing in season 3, and that was a pretty big victory there. But yeah, it was the season 3 CCS MVP for a reason. But yeah, I mean, in the ACC, going back to it, I don't know what's going to happen here. I believe I said in the preseason I thought Miami were going to be one of the top contenders in the ACC as they kind of surprised everyone last season. Now they've had an incredibly rough start through non-conference, already 1-1, getting swept by Louisville. John's got a broken hand. I mean, I don't expect to see a lot from the Hurricanes,
I
unfortunately.
think I picked California versus Pitt. I
I
think
think
is
you
as
did.
I think is who I put. But either way, enough time talking about teams dealing with mid-offs. Let's get to the Mountain West. As San Diego State sits in first place alone, followed by Washington State, San Jose State tied for second. This is a 2, maybe 3 bid league. Dronas this time. They got like 5 bids last turn. I think they're only getting 3 this time. SCSC still is concerning at a 3-3 record. I think Washington State or Air Force. I don't know why Air Force is in ninth, which is crazy. That graphic is also wrong. SJSU, um, they've got BU. He can only carry them so far. T on their roster: Silent, Blazer, and Monster for Virginia Tech. But this is what we talked about earlier. In my opinion, it's not it's not an overreaction that SCSU is going to lose the Mountain West tournament.
Oh no, I don't think it is either. I think they're still the favorites, but not as heavily as they have been in the past. I mean, we've seen them have that resistance as mentioned. I mean, Air Force has been a team to get a win over San Diego State. That was last season in conference play. They won 3-1. Of course, San Diego State did run it right back and end up winning the thing over Washington State in the Mountain West Conference tournament. But I still think there's potential. I do have to agree with you. I think either the Falcons or the Cougars are going to be able to potentially get that win and steal that title away from San Diego State.
Yeah, it's interesting. But moving along, the SEC, 14 total teams this season, a new record for CCS in the SEC teams. Um, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida all tied for first. Tennessee and Missouri tied for second for fourth, behind them still undefeated. Texas splits week 3 at sixth place at 1-1 with a game 5 L to Florida and a victory over I don't remember who.
Georgia.
Um, Ole Miss at 7, Texas A&M at 8 would be your cutoff. So it's still shaking out to be an interesting SEC season.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot kind of up in the air with the SEC after obviously we saw Tennessee kind of that their stacked roster kind of fell. Obviously, we're the dominant force in the SEC for so long, and as soon as we see them kind of go, Mizzou steps in to take their place, and Mizzou going 3-1, dropping a game to the Aggies is a little bit surprising, I will say, but still expecting them to be kind of at the top. Florida obviously gonna compete against them. We'll see how that kind of shakes out as things get down to it. That'll be a fun match to keep an eye on. And I don't believe they do play. They do play in week 3 of the conference play, aka week 5. We see Florida take on Mizzou, and that'll kind of I think really show who's going to
That's
be
next
at the
week.
top. Yeah,
That's a big game next week. Probably the game of the week, honestly, when Florida
yeah.
takes on Missouri. But again, I mean, after Tennessee dissolving their roster, South Carolina in first place. I mean, and Alabama too tied up there. That's crazy. I think it goes Missouri, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia maybe at 8th or Auburn at 8th.
I mean Georgia. I mean, there's an 0-2 start is really tough.
Yeah,
Dropping
but
to
they've had to
Texas
play
and
Texas.
Alabama.
They've played 2 good teams. I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't played anybody they really should be beating yet.
Yeah, they'll have a solid fight. I mean, either way, it'll be interesting. I do agree with you, kind of for that top four: Mizzou, Florida, South Carolina, and then Tennessee. And the other four I think are completely up in the air as of right now. We'll have to see how that plays out. But again, I'm really interesting to see the contest between Florida and Mizzou. Obviously, Mizzou, we're expecting them to be at the top, number three, but Florida are right behind them, and Florida could really take their spot. And they've kind of always been in the shadow of Tennessee here in CCS, and this could be their chance to step into the limelight.
That it could. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the SEC. Moving along to Conference USA, 9 total teams this season in Season 5. Middle Tennessee State sits in first place, tied with FIU and Jack State, tied for first. LA Tech, Western Kentucky tied for fourth, and Kennesaw sits 0-1 at sixth. Sam Houston State had a heck of a non-conference, and now are 0-2 in eighth place. And New Mexico State, after last season, now sit ninth at 0-2. But I said back before week one begun that a team that was going to be on the bubble that would make it in is Jack State. They're sitting third at unbeaten in Conference USA play.
Yeah, they took down Kennesaw State last week. This upcoming week, they take on New Mexico State. They probably should get the win there. And then next week, they take on Florida International and Middle Tennessee State, both in that week. That'll be an absolute juggernaut of a week from them. We'll see how they're going to be able to fare. Louisiana Tech, always a team to watch after winning the Sideline Sports Invitational. We're going to be keeping an eye on them. They did make, the power rankings once back in after week one, and now we'll see kind of how they fare for the rest of conference play.
Yeah, they play Kennesaw State Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern, a late kickoff on Wednesday night. I'm sure that'll be on stream. That's a big game for both the Bulldogs and the Owls. But again, this is a chaotic league. It always is. I'm excited to see what happens in a couple weeks. Moving along to the biggest conference in the whole league, the Big Ten. Maryland sits first place, tied with UCLA, which is a shocking second place to the Bruins. Purdue sits 1-0, tied for third with Illinois. Rutgers at fifth. Southern California would currently be in the Big Ten tournament at sixth. And Ohio State 7. Michigan State would be the dead last seed, playing Maryland in round one.
I mean, UCLA, hey, they're on the come up. You look at it this way: UCLA swept UW. UW beat Rutgers. Rutgers beat Michigan State. So ergo, UCLA are better than Michigan State. Yeah.
You could also claim Washington's better than Michigan State for the same reason.
You could. You could do that. I mean, it'll be. I'm expecting things to kind of fall through as usual. I'm expecting Michigan State to still be at the top. I'd be surprised to see anything else, but I mean, we'll see how conference play. Maryland had kind of a tough non-conference getting back into it. Purdue, they're going to be fun to see kind of warming back up. Illinois, got to keep an eye on. Obviously, Rutgers, I guess you have to keep an eye on as well. They're always a solid team in the Big Ten, but taking down Michigan State, that's a huge win to add on to their tally. Penn State, although starting a little bit lower, their one loss was to Michigan State. I'm expecting them to jump right back.
Honestly, the 8 teams that are going to get in for the Big Ten is Maryland, Purdue, Illinois, Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Penn State. Should be the 8. You could make an argument for Washington and Michigan for 10 teams. Now is 7 teams in overreaction in the CCS championships.
It might get there. Honestly, I could 100% see it. I think it'll still be tough. I think we're going to need to see some of those mid-tier teams step up a little bit more, but I can see it.
Because now we've got quad wins flying left and right with Rutgers, and now Washington beating Rutgers right back, and so I think some of these are going to make it hard to deny them on selection weekend. But moving along, this is a big conference. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch through the course of the next couple of weeks. The Sun Belt, James Madison is going to run the floor. But they do play Louisiana tomorrow night, or Thursday night at 8 Eastern, I believe. That is a big game.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, Louisiana, I don't think they're going to be able to get the victory, but showing that they can compete with JMU, especially after the CCS Invitational victory. That'll be a fun one to keep an eye on. Old Dominion went all the way to Game 5 with the Raging Cajun, so we've seen Old Dominion have some ups and downs as well. So there are a couple potential upsets, but I feel like you just got to expect the Dukes to win out.
Louisiana beat JMU last season and advanced to the conference tournament championship game, where they played the Buds from Georgia State, I believe.
I think so,
And
yeah.
Shady and Dylan peaked on them, I believe, and beat them
Yeah.
pretty bad. But moving
Yeah.
along, I mean, it's James Madison's tournament to lose at this point. Big East, Connecticut, Villanova, Xavier all tied at first. UConn, Villanova, probably the projected tournament final.
I mean, I would expect as much. I would expect them to run it back. Obviously, that was a really fun conference tournament final last season.
Wasn't that a midnight kick?
Yeah, I think it was. It was our final match of the night. Chat was going nuts. I think everyone was a little sleepy, and Villanova took it in Game 7 over UConn, which I think was a slight upset. I believe UConn were favorites.
Didn't we ban like 2 Villanova fans or time them out?
I think you might be right.
I know
the Villanova fans are going
they
nuts.
had a couple of crazy fans that night, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, I think you're right.
I think this season UConn's the clear favorite. Villanova hasn't surprised me yet in their non-conference, and they beat somebody. Was it DePaul? No, Xavier beat DePaul. Who did Villanova beat St. John's? Or they played DePaul TV?
I believe. Well, Villanova, they went 1-3 in non-conference, and I believe their one win. I know they lost to Idaho State. They lost to NJIT.
In conference play. Who'd they beat last week?
In conference play.
It was St. John's, right?
No, they beat DePaul.
Okay, I thought Xavier played DePaul.
Xavier played St. John's.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Anywho, UConn Villanova should be the Big East title game. Big Sky. I don't know if you saw my message last night. Just moving before we kind of move along. Idaho State, NAU are your teams to watch, and Big Sky play. But I was checking the match chats last night, kind of confirming all the games, putting them on our caster sheet, and I scrolled through. Idaho plays Montana this week, and the Montana captain, they played Idaho State last week. They got slammed, and he told the Idaho guy, like, "Oh, we didn't know anything about Idaho State. Like, we didn't expect them to be this good, and like, they just got stunned. Like, they didn't know what to expect. Like, they didn't realize that Idaho State was actually really good." So that was kind of had a little bit of a laugh last night. But Idaho State's really good. I wish Sac State was also here to make it more competitive, but NAU Idaho State should be clear front runners for the title game.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be very surprised to see anyone else really step up. It's going to be a solid competition between those two teams. I think Northern Arizona, they're getting favored a little bit as of this point. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were supposed to be the favorite. Yeah, they were supposed to be. Well, NAU was supposed to be the favorites going last season into that conference tournament final, and Idaho State won at 4-0 in a sweep. They show that they are not to be messed with. If they're going to need to do a lot though to repeat that result.
Yeah, but last season Sac State bodied NAU twice, but
that is true.
But the problem is Idaho State murdered Sac State, so it just they just kept taking turns. It doesn't translate at all now. But this season it really just comes down to Idaho State, NAU, and maybe like Idaho and Weber State could try to shock the world in the semifinal. But again, I don't see it happening.
I don't either. I'd expect to see what we're expecting. I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy. I would expect. I'm just expecting the Lumberjacks to kind of run the floor. Idaho State will have to see. You know me, I'm an Idaho State fan. Love EJ and the guys over there, but they're gonna have to do a lot. Northern Arizona are looking good.
Isn't Idaho State like Ponticello or however you say that city in southwest Idaho?
I could not tell you about the location of Idaho State University.
Moving along, Grand Canyon is 6th. UT Arlington in sole possession of first place at 2-0. Utah Valley stuns Grand Canyon earlier on in the week. I believe it was sweep. Maybe it was 3-1. I don't remember the score. But either way, that win's a win, and that's a big one. Okay, it's Pocatello. I was close. It's Pocatello, I know. I was close. I knew it was like Tello, but I don't remember. I knew it started with a P as well. But either way, Jonas, I think that's second biggest upset of the week, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, Grand Canyon. I mean, going into this week, they were sitting at number. What were they? Number 20th? No, no, no. They moved up. They were number 15 in the power rankings, and they lose to Utah Valley, and what was honestly a really unexpected result. They're getting beaten in game number 5, but we'll see how the Antelopes bounce back. Obviously, always looking at UTA over there. They 3-1 California Baptist to get things underway. Uh, people know me. I'm a fan of the Red Hawks. Go Seattle. Unfortunately, their results aren't great in showing what they have, but yeah.
Moving along, Bowling Green, UMass, Central Michigan, all tied for first in the MAC. Akron sits fourth at 1-0. Ball State also tied with Akron, still 5 unbeaten teams in league play in the MAC regular season. But Bowling Green, 6-0 overall. They're one of the 13 remaining undefeated teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting to see a lot from them. I think they very well could take that kind of number 3 spot. Already got a sweep over Kent State, who looked to be a solid performer. Central Michigan, we'll see how they do. They were able to get a 3-1 win over Toledo and Miami, Ohio. We'll see how they're able to do. But Bowling Green State, hot start.
Again, I mean, they overcame Clemson in the non-conference, and last week they beat Kent State in 3, and they believe the other game was Miami.
I believe you're right.
The better Red Hawks.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Hey, they're 0-2 in conference play. I think so are the Seattle Red Hawks. I don't know.
Central Michigan was also another team that was a little upset they were left out, but they're off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean we'll see how they're able to do this season if they're able to break
man.
in.
I'm sorry, Domi. I just had to say it.
Hey, Domi's in chat.
He is indeed in chat. I apologize.
Love to Seattle. Never hate on them.
Seattle's a cool city. I'll give you that.
We got a pointy building. That's
I've been there.
fish.
Space Needle.
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty great. Yeah.
Look at me knowing my geography.
Yeah, look at you go.
On to the A10. Dayton B in first place, tied with George Mason and Dayton. 2 Dayton teams and at 1-0 after the B team of Dayton beat GMU Academy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty solid matchup there. I mean, GMU Academy going to Game 5 with the main roster of the Flyers is pretty interesting to see. I mean, I would be extremely shocked not to see George Mason, dominate as they always do over there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think much more needs to be said.
I agree. Big West newcomers Fullerton and Cal Poly sit atop the league standings, and former champion Long Beach State 0-1 after their unfortunate start. I believe they played Fullerton and lost in Game 4, Game 5. No, they played CSUN. They played CSU Northridge and they lost.
Yeah, it was a Game 5 loss to CSUN over there, the Matadors. But yeah, Long Beach State, they're looking to make the comeback. Cal Poly getting a nice win over UC Riverside. I'm expecting to see Cal Poly do pretty well. I am excited to see that roster as well. I mean, they're another team that's kind of close to my heart. Attending Cal Poly for a year and then leaving. But yeah, anyways, I'm excited to see how they do.
I am too. I mean, it's always cool to see the newcomers do well. That's always exciting. Drexel, needs some introduction. Hofstra Northeastern. Tied alongside Drexel for first. Elon, NCA, and UNCW all fell last week in week number 3. This is a 2-bid league. Drexel and Northeastern both should have no problem getting in.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, there's not gonna be much to talk about. Drexel gonna be that number 1 spot. Northeastern gonna be that number 2. They face each other in the final week of conference play. That'll be interesting to see. I know Northeastern are hungry to prove themselves versus the Dragons, but they're gonna have to wait several more weeks.
That they are, and they'll get a second. If things go south, they'll get a second strike at it in the tournament. So I will maybe they'll get some. Maybe they'll have some better luck. But last season, remember they played Drexel close in the regular season, but in that championship match, they got bodied.
Yeah, they did indeed. I'm excited to see how kind of things turn out. You know me, I have a lot of faith in that Northeastern roster, but Drexel, they have proved themselves to be a different beast this season. Obviously, we knew it right from the get-go, right in non-conference, sweeping the reigning champs of Akron. Yeah, they're going to be a menace.
That they are. Well, let's keep moving. On to the Horizon League. IUI in first. This is a conference I have no clue who's going to win.
I mean, I would expect it, with the sudden departure of Cleveland State, I would expect it to be. I'm looking at Robert Morris to kind of take control Northern Kentucky. They're a team that we mentioned a lot last season. They're already starting off 0-1, getting swept by Milwaukee. That's another team you kind of have
It was
to look
game
out for. No
five, wasn't
Green
it?
Bay. No, they got. I believe they got swept. At least that's what it shows on our spreadsheet here.
Let's see.
The North. It says the North got swept by
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
that's correct. It is a sweep.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough start for the Norse. We'll see how they bounce back this upcoming week, taking on Green Bay. That'll be an interesting match over there in the Horizon. I know Green Bay they wanna have some big results, and we'll see if they can provide.
Yeah, IU Indy currently in first place. I mean, they missed the tournament last season. I believe they dropped in the first round of the Horizon League playoff.
I believe, yeah, they went round one against Milwaukee and got 3-1.
Well, they currently right now they hold the number one overall seed, so maybe things will go their way this spring. But moving along, Dronas, the Summit League welcomed in South Dakota and Denver, and the Coyotes hit first place at 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to speak about here. Obviously, not having the leaders in Omaha there, it opens up a lot for kind of anyone to really take control. We'll see. I believe, I would say St. Tommy's were the go-to after we saw Omaha leave, and now South Dakota sweeping the Tommies. I would have to say that the Coyotes are the team to beat.
I mean, right now they are. We watched them on stream against Long Beach State, and they smoked them. But we got the interstate rivalry. South Dakota takes on North Dakota State, I believe, soon. They play this week, actually. So that'll be a fun little rivalry clash going on. I think it's tomorrow. I don't really know though, but I'll look later. But moving along, Jonas. I mean, South Dakota or North Dakota State should be the AQ here.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I can't see anyone taking unless Denver starts to go crazy on us. I would expect that. One of those Dakota schools to take it.
North Florida back in first. They have no Nixium this season. Still sitting in first place and through again. It's just through one game. Florida Gulf Coast was the team that got to the tournament as well, alongside North Florida. I mean, both the Florida schools should be pretty good again this season.
Yeah, I would definitely expect that to be the case. I mean, I could see them staying at that 1 and 2, not expecting much change from last season. Just kind of staying the course as of right now.
Yeah, Nick, our graphics are all squared, so Streamlabs stretches them out. That's why they are all stretched a little bit, because our graphics are made not in proportion for streams. That's why they're stretched. But moving along, Jonas Quinnipiac, is it too late to blow the panic button?
I think they might have to smack it a little. I mean, they're in a tough spot. Non-conference did not go well. Losing to the newcomers in Fairfield already, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be trouble for the Bobcats. Obviously, Mount St. Mary's kind of always been that second place team, might be able to maybe break into that number one place. Maybe Fairfield is the team to beat as of right now. I would say with that win over Quinnipiac, they're going to be one of the main threats.
They had a fan in chat earlier too. I don't know if he's still here, but they had a fan in chat earlier and asked about them. But they are first place. Look at them go. The Mountaineers from northeast Pennsylvania, I believe.
Mount St. Mary's?
Yeah, they're PA, right?
I believe they're Maryland.
I'm looking it up now. They are in Maryland. I'm wrong.
Let's go.
Look at me being wrong. Love that for Nation around. But I mean, with Quinnipiac already losing once, assuming they're going to lose again at some point, Mount St. Mary's could be first place this season.
Yeah, they very well could be. I mean, that's kind of an all-out dogfight now. Mount St. Mary's, Fairfield, Quinnipiac. I think those are the three teams to look at. I mean, we'll see how they're able to do later on. Obviously, conference play finishes with Quinnipiac versus Mount St. Mary's, and then you move into the conference tournament. And who knows what'll happen there? But Fairfield getting a nice early start.
Yeah, that they are. I mean, you pick up the win no matter how much quality it might end up being later on in the year with beating Quinnipiac, but yeah, let's keep moving. New conferences this time, and I think we've spent enough time talking about Quinnipiac needing to press the panic button a little bit. Maybe give it a little nice slap. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways,
Just a nice touch.
Dronas here in JIT. I mean, made Bloods get a little scared in the tournament last season. UMBC trying to go to the championships for the first time. I mean, is there any real threat to NJIT this season?
I don't really think so. I think the Golden Retrievers are gonna fight them a little bit. We're gonna see a little bit of fight, a little bit of bark in the dog. But I think the Highlanders should be able to kind of hold their own quite well and should be able to dominate.
I would agree. I think that it's still the same roster. They look really, really good still. They picked up a decent non-conference win. UMBC changed the roster. It is pretty good, but I think NJIT is still better. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
Now, Lindenwood, I mean, haven't played yet, but we are familiar with them. They play in another league that we're both involved in quite well. Southern Indiana, though, they are the team to beat. They are really good.
Yeah, they're sitting top right now. Got a nice sweep to open things up. But yeah, Lindenwood, they're going to be another team to kind of keep an eye on. I don't really know what's going to happen. Obviously, did well through non-conference, and we'll see what they're able to do. I mean, but the Screaming Eagles are there.
Any Screagles fans in chat? Go Screagles. We'll see how well they do. Little Rock in second, tied with Southern Indiana. Lindenwood, Tennessee Tech, I believe, playing later this week. And then EIU and Southeast Missouri State sitting 0-1. Moving along to the last conference, the Southland, SFA, and UTRGV actually picked up a win over Nicole State. So can we be seeing UTRGV play SFA later on in the Southland Tournament Championship game?
That there's a chance. There really is a chance that could be how kind of things fall. I mean, I'm assuming the Lumberjacks are gonna take it, but you never know.
Because also keep in mind, UTRGV did not win a single game in a series last season in conference play or non-conference. Now they come to season number 5. They are 4-3 overall, 2-1 in league play after tonight's win. They are playing good ball, and who knows how good or bad the rest of the pack is.
Yeah, I think that'll be the big thing. Obviously, we'll see how they do in terms of the standings at the end. We'll see if they can potentially try and secure that automatic bid against the Lumberjacks. We'll have to see.
Now we will. Well, SFA sitting first place for now quite comfortably. 3-0 after tonight. They did beat UTRGV after. Wait, no, they beat Southeast Louisiana. They're 3-0, 5-2 overall. Big South Radford dominating as per the usual. They're one of 13 undefeated teams remaining.
Yeah, I mean, Radford's Radford. You don't need to say really anymore. They're at the top for a reason. Currently top 6 team in CCS. I think they're just gonna run it over there. We'll see who comes in second.
That we will. Is it Birdwatch time now? We're through the standings portion of the show. Now we can kind of talk about what we usually talk about, the bubble of the CCS championships.
I mean, yeah, let's hop into it.
Well, Jordan, as we talked last night, we moved a lot of programs around. This is how we see the field right now as it stands.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton of moves, but definitely a couple.
I mean, we debated moving Nebraska down to bubble out. They still remain in the field as of right now. California and Pitt both stumbled back to the bubble after their stumbles last week. Clemson stayed where they are. Virginia Tech moved up a little bit. Louisville, Syracuse, North Carolina moved up this week with big quality wins. Washington stays at less than 1% after the win with Rutgers after the end of the loss to UCLA, which helps UCLA now get on the board. I mean, it's interesting. And, again, the Big 12, Utah swaps places with Arizona State after that head-to-head victory. And we move South Carolina up, Texas up, Tennessee and A&M back, I believe, and then a couple other shifts left and right.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, nothing too groundbreaking at this point. Just a couple little moves. GCU dropping back after that loss. Utah Valley, on there now. I mean, ultimately, not a ton of change. A couple teams moving up. Looking at MTSU, Jack State. But ultimately, everything kind of stayed the same. Not a ton. Even though Michigan State, they had that tough loss to Rutgers, they're still an almost lock. Really haven't seen enough from them to kind of move them down just yet. Rutgers obviously moving up to bubble in. Yeah,
Now, we did move Kennesaw back. We moved Kent State back. We moved NIU back. We moved Jack State up. I believe Middle Tennessee State stayed where they are. We moved LA Tech up. Um,
I believe we moved Washington State
we moved
up
we
as
moved Washington State
well.
and Grand Canyon back. We moved WSU up, Grand Canyon back
Yeah, yeah,
after the stumble with Utah Valley, which they also jumped on the board. Um, Keep in mind, this is just for at-large purposes. Drexel is still the only lock so far in our eyes. James Madison moved to an almost lock after winning the CCS
Mhm.
Invitational, adding yet another quality victory to the resume. It's still a long way to go, though.
Yeah. It really is. Obviously, I mean, there's still a lot to be changed. We're expecting as the season goes on, as conference play takes more and more shape, we're gonna see more teams move up, to bubble in and above to kind of secure all those teams in. But as of right now, this is kind of that rough sketch, and we're gonna be keeping an eye. We're gonna be interested to see how all this changes. Obviously, it is pretty fun, I think, to find these changes week after week, move some teams up and down. But yeah,
Well, this is kind of it for us, Jonas. We kind of covered all of our bases and previewed a couple of exciting things occurring this week, and hopefully we're live tomorrow together for a long slate.
yeah. Honestly, I will definitely I'll be available tomorrow night. We're gonna try and put a nice slate together, have some good matches. Yeah, kind of get back into the swing of things in conference play.
Well, we'll see you guys tomorrow for more CCS Season 5 Week 4 action. It's been your host, Nation and Jonas. We'll see you guys next time.